Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula and thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm sharing a card using Hero Art's June, my monthly hero kit, and also a bunch of cards featuring this month add-on stamp sets. I'm not gonna lie, I went a little bit overboard with the cards featuring the add-on stamp sets because I just love them. These are so very much my style and I just could not stop playing with them. But let's start with a card featuring the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit for the month of June. This month kit is all about the sea. So the card I made pictures a beautiful summer sunset by the sea in hot pink and red colors. I wanted to walk away from the traditional blues here and instead used pinks. Now, I did not film how I made this exact card, but I will show you what you need to do to recreate it. I'm using my mini Misty today to be able to double stamp and also several colors of ink from Hero Arts. The June My Monthly Hero Kit features an image that is a color layering ocean or sea or body of water. Hero Arts is well known for their fabulous color layering images and I am a huge fan of their sets. I film regular monthly videos with the Hero Arts color layering sets called Color Layering with Yana, and I have those in a playlist on my channel in case you'd like to check them out, and I will link to that playlist here in my video. You can also find that link below in the video description, along with the links to all the supplies and things that I mentioned in this video. To stamp the color layering water for my card, I'm using pinks. I am starting with a cotton candy as my lightest color and inking up the most solid layer that represents water. I'm going to stamp it a few times to get a nice coverage. Now, I want my body of water to be bigger, so I'm flipping this stamp 180 degrees and I'm going to stamp it one more time onto my panel to extend the water. You can see that the stamping isn't really perfect because the stamp set is not meant to be extended like this, but it doesn't mean I cannot try. You can also overlap the two images a bit more closer or a bit more and not have the white show on your panel. But this white is actually easily fixable and I'll show you how I fixed it in just a minute. Next, I'm using the second layer. This is a detail layer, a medium detail layer, and I'm positioning it over my first stamped impression and it's super easy to align. You just line up the top edge and you're done. So I'm inking it up with the Hero Arts Ultra Pink ink. Now you can go with any colors you want your water to be. It can be blue, green, yellow, purple. I just wanted to have a tropical sunset look and feel to this card, so this is why I went with pinks and reds. Again, I'm repeating the same thing by rotating the stamp and adding detail to the bottom impression to extend my body of water. So I'm not going to have a shore on my card, it's just going to be water and sky. And next, I'm going to stamp the third detail layer, and this is the final detail layer. And again, this one is super easy to align. You just line it up with the top edge and you're done. I'm using crimson ink to stamp it and to complete my pink and red color combo. Now, it does look a bit unreal at this point, I agree, but that's the look that I wanted my card to have. Very fairy tale kind of look, if you will. And again, I'm extending my water by stamping this image in the bottom. You do get that lighter area in the middle that does look a little bit odd, but it's going to look fine on the finished card. I'm going to do some ink blending now to cover up that white area, and for this I'm just looking for my ink blending tool with the right color. I don't always label my tools. I do label them for distress inks, but for other inks I just use whatever color looks the closest. I'm going to use the same ink, cotton candy. That's the same ink that I used for stamping the base layer, and I'm going to do some blending. So it does look off at first, but you have to remember that once the ink dries, it will change the color slightly and it will be lighter, much lighter on the finished card. I'm also going to ink blend the sky, and here I'm using crimson ink, the same one that I used for my top detail layer. And I'm just heavily blending this and extending it over to the top of my panel. I'm going from heavy crimson in the middle to much lighter at the top. And again, this will look much better once the ink is dry. To add some interest to this background, I'm also going to add clouds. There are 3 clouds in this month kit, 3 cloud images, And these are layering images. There are 2 layers to each of the clouds. I've found that it looks wonderful when you stamp base layer in white pigment ink, and once that dries, you heat emboss detail layer in white embossing powder. I'm going to stamp a bunch of clouds to make my sky into a very cloudy one. I'm also going to overlap my clouds to make them look much more real. I'm making sure to thoroughly ink my stamp, and I'm pressing it and keeping it on my paper for a few extra seconds, making sure I'm giving the ink enough time to transfer onto my paper. You can build up the white ink on this panel by double or even triple stamping your clouds with the help of a MISTI tool or similar. I decided I wanted to stamp mine just once to be a bit translucent. Where my clouds overlap, I'm getting a more saturated white color, and this white is also less translucent or less transparent. If you didn't want to heat emboss the detail layer, by the way, you can also just stamp it in white onto the white clouds, and you easily get darker, whiter areas. To finish this card, I white heat embossed a sentiment from my kit that reads, "Hello, greetings from my happy place." I used white embossing powder and heat embossed it onto a vellum circle. I've also added some pink palm trees at the top of the circle. I stamped those in pink matte ink. I cut them out and foam mounted in place, and also added a little glitter enamel heart at the bottom. I added both of those elements mostly to be able to hide foam adhesive to foam mount the vellum circle onto the card, and they did hit it quite nicely. So this card was created using the kit contents only. I also have a bunch of cards to share made using this month add-ons, so keep watching for more inspiration. I love to work with background stamps, and there are 2 fabulous ones this month. First up, I have Beach Umbrella stamp, and I've already white heat embossed it onto white cardstock here. I'm going to do some simple ink blending to create a colorful background. I'm using colors Green Hills, Pink Matter, and also Butter Bar to create a diagonal ink blended look, and I'm blending these using my Mini Ranger ink blending tools. I'm making sure to overlap my inks and have a gradual color transition. I love this Beach Umbrellas background, and it's one of the best background stamps that I've ever seen for summer. You can use it in a variety of ways, starting with this ink blending. You can color some umbrellas, you can color all of the umbrellas, or you can also cut your umbrellas out and use as individual elements on your cards. And I did do that, and I will show you that in just a minute. I used dry cloth to remove any ink buildup that I had on the white heat embossing, and I often like to use a little bit of the Ultra Clean stamp cleaner from Hero Arts on my cloth to be able to clean the embossing better, because these inks from Hero will somewhat color your embossing powder. To finish this card, I added Let's Go on Vacay sentiment, and I heat embossed it 3 times onto black cardstock. And here I've added additional beach umbrellas as embellishments onto my card. They were heat embossed in white, and I just ink blended some ink on top. For my second card, I wanted to have a sandy look and feel to my umbrellas. I actually wanted to make it look as if they are in the sand. So I used craft paper and clear heat embossed this background onto craft. Next, to add color to these umbrellas, I use my Polychromos pencils from Faber-Castell. I love using these pencils for coloring, and I have many videos on my YouTube channel showing how to color with them. I'll link to a playlist in case you'd like to check them out. I used a few colors and colored my umbrellas blue, green, yellow, and pink. This coloring did take quite a bit of time, just like any coloring does, but I still loved it. To spice my umbrellas up, I decided I wanted to add little brads to emphasize this umbrella look. You might have noticed a tiny gold cap on the 3 umbrellas on my previous card. That's what those were. They were tiny gold brads. So I used my tool-in-one from Spellbinders, and I poked holes in the middle of my colored umbrellas and added gold brads under each hole to make these umbrellas look a bit more realistic. If you don't have brads in your stash, you can add tiny gold gems on top or fake it with Nuva drops or something similar. To finish this card, I gold heat embossed little drinks and also a sentiment that reads Beach, please, eat, sleep, beach, repeat onto the same craft paper. I cut it into a pennant and foam mounted onto the card. I also wanted to add an interactive object onto my project, so I turned one of the umbrellas into a little spinner. So you can actually spin the green umbrella on this card. I think it's so fun and so very easy to do too. You just need a brad for this. I had another beach umbrella background on my desk, so I blended just yellow ink, this is Butterbar ink from Hero, onto the entire background and added a simple beach please let's go on vacay sentiment along with another green umbrella. And all of these sentiments came from another add-on this month from Hero Arts. This is the Beach Please Stamp and Cut set. I first wanted to trim the sentiment panel, but later decided to just tear it for a more interesting and natural look. And here I have a damp baby wipe, and I'm going to show you how I clean the white embossing after ink blending. I've sprayed a little bit of the Ultra Clean solution from Hero Arts. This is a stamp cleaning solution, so I sprayed a little bit, just a tiny bit onto this baby wipe. And I'm going to rub it gently on my background over the white heat embossing to clean it up. And you can instantly see the difference. It does pick up and remove the ink that is sitting on top of the embossing powder. I often use this trick when I blend with Hero Arts inks over white heat embossing to help my embossing stay truly white, but it is risky to use as having too much of the Ultra Clean can dissolve the embossing powder and even stain your background, so use it carefully. Before we move on to the next batch of cards, I wanted to quickly show you these four cards that I made using the beach umbrella background. I did make one more card using red, blue, and yellow color combo, but I did not like that card at all. I did selective ink blending or selective coloring here with an ink dubber and blended red and blue inks onto the background onto some of the umbrellas and also colored flip-flops yellow using a Copic marker. Maybe if I had used other colors, it would have looked better, but I still wanted to share this idea with you. Another awesome background stamp that is an add-on this month is an Abstract Waves stamp. And it's an awesome stamp for anything that is sea related. So it's not necessarily one for just summer, but it can be used all year round with fun sea critters. Here I once again heat embossed it in white on white, and I'm blending Hero Arts Aquatic ink, turning this background into sea blue and not white. I'm also adding navy ink blending around the edges to make this panel a bit more interesting. You can even color this background using your markers, or similar to the umbrella's background, you can even cut the waves apart and use partial waves on your background. So an awesome and versatile design that can be used many times for various cards. Here I'm once again cleaning my white embossing from the ink buildup using a damp baby wipe and the Ultra Clean. And this is also how I clean my mat. This is an easy clean mat from Tonic Studios, by the way. A great mat for anything messy, and it is also a transparent one. So if you have a mat with a grid under it, you can see the grid through it and use it if needed for your process. I'm going to add some shimmer to this background using Hero Arts White Iridescent Shimmer Mist. This was an add-on in one of the Hero Arts kits a few months ago. I've been using it a lot lately, and I love the shimmery shine and the shimmery splatter that it adds to my cards. And I think I've actually used about half a bottle already. Now to create a sentiment for this card, I'm going to use images and sentiments from the Beach Messages stamp set. This is also a new add-on this month. And here I'm stamping a crab and a sentiment that reads, "Have a shell of a time." And I'm using my Intense Black ink as I plan to color this crab red. I've also offset the panel and stamped the sentiment again in blue ink to create a pretty drop shadow, just something different for a change. And I really like the way it turned out. Here's a closer look at this. I have also already heat embossed and ink blended another sentiment panel to finish a card with a waves background, and this one says, "Happiness comes in waves." Here is a photo of this card. I white heat embossed the message and just blended blue and yellow ink, creating a sunset look. And here is a look at the second card with a crab. I colored him red. I added googly eyes and embellished this card with Hero Arts Sequins and Ombre Red. Now, I love this crab image. He's so adorable and unique too, and I have not seen a crab image like this before, nor do I have a crab image in my stash. And whenever I come across an image like that, that's so new and inspiring to me, I immediately want to use it to make a pattern. So here I used it to make a crabby pattern for another card. So again, I stamped it repeatedly onto white cardstock panel in alcohol marker friendly ink. I made sure to rotate the image to make this pattern appear random and unique. And then I just used my Copics and colored each crab red. The colors I used were R39, R27, and R22. I also used a white gel pen once the Copic coloring was dry to add white pen details to this image. You do need to wait for the alcohol ink to dry before adding the white pen detail, as if you don't, the alcohol ink will eat up the white pen and it just won't be nice and true white. I completed this card by adding "Sorry I Was Crabby" sentiment. I white heat embossed it onto Simon Says stamp green apple cardstock 3 times and cut it into 3 cute banners for my card. I also added Hero Arts ombre sequins in green in between my crabs, filling any empty spaces in. Okay, moving on. Next, I wanted to use the drinks and pineapple image from the Beach Messages stamp set to make some beach towel cards. So here I'm using Tropic Like It's Hot sentiment and I'm stamping it in black ink. I want to build a little scene around this sentiment with the other stamps from this set, and I need to stamp the sentiment first. So next I'm stamping a sun and waves, and this image comes as a 1 stamp, but I've cut it into 2 using my scissors as I want to stamp the sun at an angle above the sentiment, and next I want to add the waves stamped in blue under the sentiment. So this is my little scene. I also want to stamp a drink and a pineapple image, so I'm stamping those in Copic marker friendly ink again, as I'm going to color these with Copics. Now, unfortunately, I did not write down the exact colors of the markers that I was using. I think I used YG17 and YG67, as well as Y15 and YR14, but I could be wrong. And just any nice green and yellow colors will do for this. Oh, here I decided to display the caps. So I'm using YG25 and YG67, so I wasn't completely wrong. I then used my scissors, and I love these scissors by Tonic. So I used these scissors to cut these images out, and they were not too hard to cut out. And I also have a trick for making it easier to cut any stamped images. And the trick is to stamp your images onto thinner 80-pound cardstock and not 110-pound cardstock. At least this trick works really well for me, as the thinner your paper, the easier it is to cut and navigate or maneuver it. Once my cutting was done and the ink had time to dry, I used my white pen to add details to these to help them pop. And seriously, if you guys do not have a white pen for your card making, it is a must. It's such an inexpensive tool, yet it gives you a lot of options. I often use it to add details to my images, and I also use it to fix my Copic coloring mistakes where my ink bled and went outside the lines. So it's a must-have if you ask me. Okay, let's go back to that sentiment panel. I'm going to trim it to be slightly smaller, and I'm going to blend some ink to make it into a pretty sunset. I'm blending Butterbar and Aquatic ink from Hero Arts. Now, the blue ink blending smeared the black like it's hot, stamping a little bit. I really did not anticipate that happening. So later, to fix that, I re-stamped that part on white cardstock, and I just foam mounted it over my original panel to fix it. And I think it ended up looking even better than before. I also foam mounted my pineapple and drink on top of that panel, and I set it aside while I was working on the background. Like I mentioned, I wanted to create a beach towel look for the background for this card. So I took a panel of light blue cardstock as my background. This is sea glass cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. And I also took white cardstock. I cut the white paper into 1/2 inch strips, and those are about 4 1/4 inches long. I added double-sided tape from the back, and I adhered those strips onto my blue background at 1/2 inch intervals, making a striped background that looks like a beach towel. And seriously, does it not look like that? And it was so easy to make. I'm tempted to try to use other colors of cardstock, and I've also pulled some of my older striped stamp sets to be able to stamp the colorful stripes instead of using cardstock. I'm very excited to continue to explore this background further. I cut my background to be 4 inches wide, and I adhered it onto an A2 side-folding white card base. Next, I foam mounted my sentiment panel and embellished this card using Frost Sequin Mix from Hero Arts. I'm going to say this again, guys. I wish I had more time to play with these stamps, as I have so many more ideas that are perfect for summer. Be sure to visit my blog for a full list of supplies that I use to make these cards and to join the Hero Arts blog hub for loads of additional inspiration. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not done so yet. If you are a subscriber but are not receiving new video notifications, check the bell icon on the homepage of my channel to get notified every time there's a new video. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye!